Hi, I'm Dr. Gwyn Erwin, and welcome back to my channel, Healing for Your Life. I haven't recorded a video in over 4 years, and the reason for that is 4 plus a few months ago, I nearly died out of the blue, no warning at all. It was at the height of COVID, although it wasn't because of COVID. I had a ruptured colon, and my life hung in the balance for several days in the ICU and then in the hospital for another 2 weeks. Fortunately, I recovered and have worked very hard to get back to my full and thriving life. The reason that I haven't recorded videos between my recovery and now is because I've been working on a lot of exciting projects. My full-length professional book, The Developmental Lens, A New Paradigm for Psychodynamic Diagnosis and Treatment, was published. I've created a couple of other children's books, with a third on the way with my wonderful illustrator, Jen Shakti, and created any number of other products that are all available on Amazon. However, I wanted to get back into my YouTube channel because I really value you, my subscribers, and I very much appreciate your patience and your understanding. You'll be getting back to my channel with new videos every week. I'm excited to share all kinds of things with you, but today is kind of a somber topic because one of the consequences of my illness was that I developed PTSD from it, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, millions of people have PTSD, and many of them have what's called CPTSD, which is Complex Posttraumatic Stress Disorder. I've worked very hard to overcome this using all of the techniques that I use with my patients that I've worked with for years, helping them resolve unresolved trauma and recovering from the consequences of it and reshaping their lives due to the impact of that trauma. I wanted to offer you today a really pretty thorough description of what PTSD and CPTSD is, so that if you or a loved one or a friend or a coworker are struggling with this, you'll at least have a starting point of how to begin to deal with it and its aftermath. First of all, PTSD or CPTSD doesn't go away. It can resolve in the sense that its duration, its intensity, and its repetition all decrease over a period of therapeutic help and working with techniques to help you resolve it. But it can always be triggered. And right now we are living in a world that is very triggering and creating all kinds of new episodes of PTSD and CPTSD for people. So what is the difference? Post-traumatic stress disorder can be the result of acute trauma, which is an event with a beginning and a middle and not necessarily an end. The event might end, but the consequences don't. And it has certain symptoms. It also can be ongoing, irrelationally bound, weaving in and out of our everyday lives, because of the stressors of the environment in which we're raised, or the relationship challenges with the people who are in our lives, and the lack of intervention. CPTSD symptoms are comprised of intrusive thoughts and feelings with a lot of distress, and they're all related to the precipitating trauma. They are provoked by traumatic cues or stimuli. They alter the way we process cognitively. We can get confused, have difficulty in focusing, unable to concentrate when we're in a PTSD episode. We feel it physiologically. We may have fear-based symptoms such as chills, which is parasympathetic, sweating, which is sympathetic, disturbed sleep with accompanying nightmares, avoidance of cues and triggers, and avoidance of experience that might stimulate our PTSD, and increasing freezing or flight and fight responses. Now, complex post-traumatic stress is not yet included in the DSM-5. It will be in the future. Researchers and clinicians are working very hard to get that included. And it's a necessary diagnosis, according to professional opinions, including my own, because PTSD does not take into account the psychological dynamics and the resulting significant symptoms that occur in CPTSD. There are 6 clusters of symptoms that are proposed for this diagnosis. One is the inability to regulate our emotional lives, along with impulsivity. It affects our attention, our self-perception, and I'm going to get back to that in just a minute because that's key. Interpersonal relations with others, how experience is interpreted and what it means, and increased bodily expression of our traumas. However, the most significant impact of CPTSD that differs from PTSD is how it alters one's self-perception and why. The essence of CPTSD resides in its interpersonal nature. It comes from repeated and prolonged exposure to somebody of significance, somebody who really matters, whether it's a caregiver, a person of authority, a partner. But in those relationships, the victim has little or no chance of escape, physically or emotionally, or both. Examples of PTSD include physical trauma, beatings, burnings, tortures, mental trauma, gaslighting, accusations, being undermined, being ridiculed, emotional, both obvious and subtle, what we call overt and covert, financial, stripping of one's independence, exerting control over ourselves, and even spiritual, with hierarchical power being exerted. But the worst of these consequences, the most impactful, is what we call the deformation of the self, meaning that our selfhood becomes undermined. It is whittled away by that person of authority or power who has control over us. It develops in us a temporary, hopefully, loss of a sense of stable self. We don't even know who we are anymore. And we tend more and more to believe how we are portrayed by the abusing others in our lives. All of this leads to a loss of self-worth, depersonalization, which is a psychological phenomenon where we don't have our sense of self, we don't have our sense of personhood, derealization, which is many things start to become unreal to us, dissociation, which is a form of splitting because we are overwhelmed, we can't tolerate the experience. We lose our ability to take initiative, accompanied by deep feelings of shame and fear and guilt. We feel stigmatized with a lack of safety or protection. We lose trust in others. We feel helpless. We lose a sense of purpose and a comprehensive functioning in the outer world. We exhibit excessive accommodation where we're pleasing, trying to get through to those people who are harming us, trying to change things, believing that if we were better or did things differently, the abuse would stop. We might withdraw, we become inhibited, we might get angry. We certainly ruminate at the expense of being able to concentrate on other positive aspects of living. We engage in desperate searches for help. This can lead to re-traumatization because we are often met by those who deny what happened to us or belittle it or are ignorant of it. And there are also many misguided demands for acquiescence to the very person who's abusing us, which is causing the CPTSD in the first place. What do we do about this? Well, we do need to get really good therapy with a therapist like myself who practices in this sort of way, knowing how to work with resolving trauma that is ongoing and its consequences are ongoing. This is often painful work, but it's very rewarding at the same time. Also, there are many tools that are given to a patient when they're coping with this. Too many to go into in this video. I will be offering other videos about that. The most salient point of all of this, whether you follow a therapeutic path, a journaling path, a spiritual path, you need to get help and companionship from those you can trust, who will help you remember and access who you truly are before this abuse happened. The gaslighting is one of the worst parts of this. When I was in the hospital, one of the nurses actually almost killed me. And she refused, when confronted by my surgeon and the chief of staff, to admit what she had done and to agree to go back to nursing school and learn how to do the procedure. She reversed my draining tubes, forcing all the toxins that were supposed to be draining out of me back into my system, leaving me screaming like I have never screamed, even in natural childbirth at home, helpless and dying for the second time. It was only because my surgeon happened to be on the floor, didn't even know who was screaming, and came running and took care of the situation in moments. And then they confronted the nurse, who continued to insist she knew what she was doing. That is gaslighting of the highest order. I think she was removed from working. I don't know if she ever went back to school. I don't know if she ever admitted what she had done. But it almost cost me my life. People go through this with the people who gaslight them. It may not be on a physical level, or it could be. It could be on a spiritual level. It could be on an emotional level. It could be financial. But its aim for the gaslighter is to strip you of your knowledge and your experience of who you are. And they do this out of envy or greed or control. They do not want you to succeed. They want you to fail, because then you are not a threat, you are not a competition, and they don't have to envy you anymore because they have basically spoiled the thing they envy, which is you. They don't have to envy it anymore, which relieves them of this agonizing feeling of envy that they have no way to get over otherwise, because they're not working on themselves. If you are struggling with PTSD or CPTSD, reach out for help. It is there. It is available. The journey is a challenge, but it will save your life in more ways than you can even imagine. I'm so happy to be alive. I have a zest for life. I'm so grateful for every day, for the people I love, my family, my friends, my patients, and for you who trust me and support me. I wish you well, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.